YouTube. How's everyone doing? Jags to Riches, James Peters. Thank you all so much for your time. Special guest, Jags Jr., newest addition to the Boston Celtics fan base. Guys, apologies. I'm on daddy duty today, and there was no way he was going to allow me to not let him be a part of this. He'd be in the other room screaming. So, um, I had been working on, doing a video essentially going over the Boston Celtics previous 3 games. The last video I did, they were 3-0. Had just finished beating the Orlando Magic in a tough fight. After that, they went on a 2-game losing streak and an absolute embarrassment against the Bulls. I mean, you're talking about just being dominated on the boards, being absolutely outclassed in the paint. I mean, Vucevic had 20 plus rebounds by himself. DeMar DeRozan, after an impressive first quarter, we ended up collapsing, and that was an ugly one. And then obviously in a damn near early season classic against the Cavs, a back and forth just slugfest between two teams with, you know, real playoff implications, and two teams that want to represent the East. Just battling with that would unfortunately see the Cavs win in overtime before the Boston Celtics would, in this past game, win a wire to wire essentially blowout against the Washington Wizards, a game where they never trailed, and a game which seen the starters and the majority of the core sit, with a good amount of the fourth quarter still remaining. So honestly, I just kind of wanted to go over some of those updates. And as I was preparing for that video, as you can see, I've got all my notes right here for it. I was going to go over each of them, but of course, breaking news: Ime Udoka, Brooklyn Nets, Steve Nash, phones going crazy, and of course, it is just unbelievable. Essentially, the breaking news is that the Brooklyn Nets have decided to part ways with Steve Nash. It's being reported that it's a mutual parting. We knew this was inevitable. It's been a shit show with the coaching, with everything with this team. You could say since they lost that game 7 against the Bucks, it has just been them taking a full season of L's. Last year was, I mean, it was hard to watch with the Kyrie drama, the first round loss. Obviously, I mean, we don't need a coach. We can know we're all coaches or whatever shit Kyrie said. So I've been very proud of Brooklyn recently. I think ever since the KD trade, request that fell through in that meeting, I feel like they've been really, on a good, they've been taking back power of the team, right? Essentially, they got KD to recommit. We knew he wasn't going anywhere after all the offseason bullshit. They brought in TJ Warren, Royce O'Neal, getting healthy with guys like Joe Harris, not giving Kyrie Irving that max contract. So there was multiple things that they did I really liked. Obviously, getting back Ben Simmons this year, it was a lot to be hopeful for. Rough start so far for the Nets, but again, we're talking about 6 games. I was actually watching their game yesterday against the Pacers, and I think, they controlled a good amount of it. It got kind of interesting and close late. Buddy Hield was going off on them. I think that kind of game, they were like, yeah, enough is enough with this head coach. It's time to figure something else out. So, as being reported today, they decided to move on from Steve Nash. Why that is obviously interesting for me as a Boston Celtics fan and channel is because immediately after that, it is being reported that it's going to be Ime Udoka, the former Boston Celtics head coach that replaces him. Now, Ime Udoka, in his one and only season for the Celtics and as a head coach last year, led him to the number 2 seed, 51 wins, 31 losses, all the way to game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Of the NBA Finals, after winning the Eastern Conference Finals in an incredible game 7 against the Miami Heat, instant classic, game 7 against the Bucks, sweeping the Brooklyn Nets in the first round. And again, after what was an embarrassing, shitty start to the season, we literally had the most impressive, historic midseason turnaround ever when you talk about from a win-loss record. And just from the defensives, everything that this man meant to our team last year, getting these gentlemen to buy in, our defense that was just suffocating, best across the board in the league. And the story, again, you're talking about a 500 team at the midpoint, And for them to battle back, go on a run to finish the number 2 seed, and then go to a finals in which there was a point where we thought they were going to win up 2-1 in game 4, winning, in the fourth quarter before collapsing and then losing the 3 straight. But it being his first and only year, for them to get there and to achieve that, you just feel so good because you've seen his system finally, be implemented. You've seen it take time. You've seen it, you got to just at the end of the first season, you're sitting there thinking like, holy shit, that was only 1 year. And look what they were able to accomplish. Imagine what happens next. These guys clearly loved Ime. It was clearly an incredible fit. You will always hear me. I am a huge Brad Stevens fan. I will always talk about just how incredible he is and how I don't think there's many coaches better than him from an X and O perspective. But it's just one of those things where they needed a new voice. They got their guy that they had been, essentially campaigning for, and it was a perfect fit. So obviously this offseason, we're gearing up for a repeat, running it back. And then obviously the scandal happens after losing Gallo, losing Rob, the KD drama. And right after we get the Rob Williams update, we find out about this whole Ime thing. Now, basically, it was all kinds of reports, sexual harassment, this and that. It was just all kinds of wild, allegations. It looks like what happened was he ended up having an affair or, hooking up with an equipment manager, essentially a female member of staff who was married to somebody important. One of the executives, the executive or whoever it was, found out, had proof, and was going to expose them, essentially pushed the Celtics into doing something. And here we are. Now, obviously, a lot of people are split right down the middle on if you agreed with the actual suspension, the punishment itself, a full year. And obviously, a lot of us knew that his time with Boston had come to an end. The league never did a suspension themselves. And it's just wild now that you think of it. He's only been out of the damn league a month. And essentially the first opportunity another team had with a coaching vacancy, they scooped his ass right up. Now, he makes a lot of sense for the Nets as he was, assistant coach for them the year before he got hired with, the Celtics, has pretty much coached the majority of that Nets team was there back when he was the assistant coach. And obviously the success he had last year. So a lot of that makes sense on why they would grab Ime right out the gate. But again, for a Celtics fan, it's disappointing. This whole situation and story sucks and is disappointing because you're literally talking about something that's not basketball related that, just really put this team like in a difficult situation, especially for a lot of these young men in their mid 20s. And just after such an incredible previous season, it was a very disappointing situation and put a very sour taste in our mouth heading into the new season. Now, starting off 4-2 with Joe Mazzulla, obviously the defense has been concerning, every single game with exception to, I think, the Wizards. They've given up over 100 points. They were in like 24th when it came. Look, the defense has not been what it's been in the past. So we've had some concerns there, and you want to give Joe some time, right? Brand new, first time, NBA head coach. There's several players on this team older than him. So it's going to, just like last year with Ime, it's going to take a little bit of time, but I'm sure that, this will continue to develop with some updates. And as they do, it looks like this is, if nothing else, finally going to be an end to this crazy ass story for the Boston Celtics side of things. I'm happy for Ime Udoka. I was listening to, I believe it was Stan Van Gundy talk about him the other day during the Magic and Celtics game. And he was just talking about his character, how much he personally liked him and his experience with coaching him, I guess, with Team USA, and just how he just spoke so highly of him. And it again made me just so disappointed in the situation and the fact that he's not our head coach right now because of something that just has nothing to do with basketball. But I wish Ime nothing but the best. The Brooklyn Nets, that's a home run for them. They've got a lot of work to do, and they got the right guy to help them turn it around. The Boston Celtics 4-2, looking strong. Our man Joe, like I said, he's got some things to work on, timeouts, end of game substitutions, little growing pains, and I think that will be fine. But big rematch with the Cavs tomorrow night. Hopefully some get back going to Cleveland. So tough environment against a really good team, possibly with Darius Garland coming back. But again, Breaking news, Steve Nash is out in Brooklyn. Ime Udoka is in. Thank you all so much for your time. Jags to Riches, James Peters, with special guest, Jags Jr. Thank you all. Take care, guys.